Vladimir Putin has reiterated that he has no plans of slowing down its full-scale invasion or even negotiating with Kiev.
French President Emmanuel Macron announced that France will launch a voluntary military service program in summer 2026.
Pope Leo XIV calls on Turkey to actively play a role for stability and peace in global and regional conflicts as he began his first foreign papal trip on Thursday.
The Russian president has reiterated his maximalist demands over occupied areas of Ukraine. In Kyrgyzstan, Vladimir Putin insisted Moscow has no plan of slowing down its full-scale invasion or even negotiating with Kiev.
Мы до сих пор получаем заходы о прекращении боевых действий там. Войска Украины уйдут из занимаемых ими территорий. Вот тогда и прекратятся боевые действия. Не уйдут, мы добьемся этого вооруженным путем.
Ukraine, together with the US and the European Union, has called for Moscow to first agree to a ceasefire and then engage in direct negotiation with Kiev. But in his remarks on Thursday, Putin rejected this possibility. Instead, Vladimir Putin said Moscow wants the United States to recognize Russia-occupied territories of Ukraine. French authorities have detained 3 people for allegedly working for Russian security services while pretending to run a humanitarian organization. The trio are also accused of economic espionage. The suspects are linked to the SOS Donbass Association, which presents itself as a humanitarian aid organization. Its website provides ready-to-print posters with the slogan, "Russia is not my enemy." 2 of the people arrested are leaders of the association. The charges they face are punishable by up to 10 years in prison and hefty fines. The 3rd person is suspected of having put up posters in September on the Arc de Triomphe with the words, "Say thank you to the victorious Soviet soldier." He is said to have reported to the SOS Donbass Association. A 4th suspect has been placed under judicial supervision and must regularly report to the police.
France will launch a voluntary military service program in summer 2026, President Emmanuel Macron announced on Thursday. The scheme will recruit 18 and 19-year-olds selected during a day of mobilization based on their motivation and the needs of the armed forces. Volunteers will serve for 10 months, beginning with 1 month of initial training in basic military skills and weapons handling, followed by 9 months in a military unit deployed only on French territory.
Nous ne pouvons pas revenir au temps de la conscription, mais nous avons besoin de mobilisation. Mobilisation de la nation pour se défendre, pas contre tel ou tel ennemi, mais pour se tenir prête et être respectée.
Macron said the program aims to enroll 3,000 young people in 2026, rising to 10,000 by 2030 and 50,000 by 2035. France's military currently comprises around 200,000 active personnel and over 40,000 reservists, making it the 2nd largest in the European Union, just behind Poland.
Across French campuses, President Emmanuel Macron's plan for a new voluntary military service for young people is sparking mixed reactions among students. Some view the program as an opportunity or even a necessary step in a tense geopolitical climate.
Franchement, c'est une bonne initiative pour bien protéger le pays. Et vu que c'est sur principe de volontariat, ça pourrait trouver une vocation pour certains et ça aidera le pays, donc c'est de bon augure pour la suite.
Pourquoi pas? Parce que ça permet d'avoir une formation, de goûter un petit peu à la vie militaire comme l'ont fait nos anciens. Et 800 € par mois, c'est toujours ça de gagner, surtout si on est nourri, logé et blanchi.
Some told us the timing feels wrong, especially with France aiming to cut public spending.
Je trouve que l'État a d'autres priorités à traiter, notamment on est dans une période assez difficile où vraiment le budget de l'État est compliqué à gérer. Ça devrait aller, par exemple, pour l'augmentation du SMIC, par exemple.
The headquarters of one of the country's largest student unions, the reaction to Macron's plan is firmly critical.
Nous, on s'oppose en fait à ce retour du service militaire, d'une part parce qu'on se trouve quand même dans un contexte de restrictions budgétaires énormes, avec 80% des universités qui sont déficitaires. Et donc aujourd'hui, on nous explique qu'il n'y a pas d'argent magique, mais par contre pour l'armée, apparemment c'est assez facile de débloquer des budgets de plusieurs centaines de millions d'euros. Et puis aussi parce que dans les objectifs qui sont annoncés par Emmanuel Macron, il y a la question de la formation des jeunes. Et c'est aussi encore une fois un scandale pour les universités, pour l'éducation nationale aussi, qui ont le rôle de former la jeunesse, de former toute une génération et qui aujourd'hui se retrouve mise sur le côté.
A generation raised in relative peace now finds itself debating mobilization, patriotism, and the prospect of a future conflict.
Pope Leo XIV encouraged Turkey to be a source of stability in a world riven by conflict as he began his first foreign papal trip on Thursday. Arriving in Ankara, the American pontiff was welcomed by a military guard of honor and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Speaking at the presidential palace, Leo XIV praised Turkey's historic role as a bridge between East and West and a crossroads of cultures.
Today, more than ever, we need people who will promote dialogue and practice it with firm will and patient resolve. We are now experiencing a phase marked by heightened level of conflict on the global level, fueled by prevailing strategies of economic and military power. We must in no way give in to this. The future of humanity is at stake.
The Pope's trip also marked the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, Christianity's first ecumenical council. On Friday, he will join the Greek Orthodox Patriarch in Iznik to commemorate the event. Leo is the fifth Pope to visit Turkey following Paul VI, John Paul II, Benedict XVI, and Francis.
Countries failed to set a phase-out of fossil fuels at the COP30, and Europe is partly to blame. European lawmakers noted during a plenary debate in Strasbourg on the results of the 30th United Nations Climate Conference held last week in Belém, Brazil. The final text avoids any roadmap to phase out coal, gas and oil extraction due to major resistance from oil-producing countries.
We needed a good deal 10 years after the Paris Agreement, and what did we get instead? I am sorry, Commissioner, but I think the support for the fossil fuel roadmap was too weak, and we were disorganized in the European Union at the table of the COP. Or why else would the EU countries sign different proposals at different times?
Some MEPs also criticized the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, for saying at the G20 in South Africa that the EU was not fighting fossil fuels, only emissions.
Transitioning away from fossil fuels. Europe in Belém was standing behind it, but Europe in South Africa was questioning that maybe we should talk about the emissions of fossil fuels and not fossil fuels themselves. I really think the coordination within the Commission is not good enough.
What the COP30 participants did agree on was to triple adaptation finance by 2035 in order that developed countries assist developing countries adapting to the impact of climate change.
The European reform of air passenger rights seems to be going from bad to worse. Dissatisfaction with the draft text has now reached such a level that the industry has called for a pause in the negotiations. We urgently call for a 6-month pause to the deliberations until a thorough impact assessment of the proposed measures has been conducted, it says in a letter sent on behalf of the airline industry operating in Europe. The current draft text could increase the sector's total annual cost by at least 40%, according to various airlines associations. Currently, European air travellers are entitled to compensation if a flight is cancelled or delayed by more than 3 hours. However, airlines are pushing for the threshold to be raised, which the European Consumer Association rejects.
Les premières discussions au Conseil portaient sur un palier de 5 heures et 9 heures, ce qui là aurait enlevé 90% des droits des passagers. Donc là, pour nous, c'était inacceptable. Le deal final s'est retrouvé à 4 heures et 6 heures, ce qui va impacter plus de 60% des passagers. Ça veut dire que 6 personnes sur 10 n'auraient plus le droit à aucune compensation. Pour nous, c'est inacceptable, bien sûr.
Interinstitutional negotiations between the Council, the Parliament and the Commission will resume on Monday.
A controversial new budget draft was withdrawn on Thursday morning after thousands of protesters took to the streets of Sofia to oppose it the night before. The government had proposed to increase social security contributions and double dividend taxes in an ambitious new budget, which would have set a new spending record at around 46% of GDP, as well as dramatically increase public debt. Wednesday evening's rally was organized by the opposition coalition and is estimated to have drawn around 20,000 people. Protesters gathered outside the National Assembly building, where lawmakers convened to examine the proposed budget. They formed a massive human chain around the Parliament building in an effort to block all exit and prevent MPs from leaving the premises. Police say the protests, which were declared as peaceful, quickly escalated and turned violent, announcing that 3 police officers were injured. Authorities say some protesters threw firecrackers and glass bottles at deployed officers and attempted to overturn a police van. The protest came ahead of a final parliamentary vote to gain approval, and just a few weeks before the Balkan nation is set to enter the Eurozone.
8 skiers were rescued alive this morning after being buried by an avalanche at the Stubai Glacier in the Austrian Alps. The group, skiing off-piste, triggered the slide in the Downshard Pass, a hazardous area outside the protected runs. A massive rescue operation involving over 250 helpers, including avalanche dogs and helicopters, was launched immediately. By afternoon, all skiers identified as from Germany, Bulgaria and Austria had only minor injuries. 3 of the survivors were airlifted to a hospital, while others were treated at the scene. Officials say the avalanche was caused by skiers crossing a slope with significant snow buildup, though some deployed airbags for safety.